The fall of a city is often imagined as an ending, a moment when something old collapses and disappears, replaced by what comes next. But history rarely moves that cleanly. Sometimes the real shift happens quietly, before the walls are breached, before the last banners fall, before anyone agrees that the world has changed at all. On the night Constantinople fell, the city did not simply vanish. It absorbed a decision, and that decision did not stay within its walls. This story belongs to the domain of power, not as spectacle, but as structure. It examines how authority, legitimacy, and control are reshaped when a center collapses and another claims its place. It is not a battlefield narrative, and it is not a celebration of conquest. It is an inquiry into how power behaves when continuity breaks and must be reassembled under new hands. In the middle of the 15th century, Constantinople still stood as a claim, not merely a city, but an assertion of inheritance. It called itself Rome long after Rome itself had fractured. Its walls were not just stone. They were memory, law, ritual, and precedent held together by repetition. The empire it governed had shrunk. Its reach no longer matched its name. Yet the title endured. The ceremonies continued. The language of authority remained intact even as the substance thinned. Power in this moment did not disappear with territory. It lingered in form, and form has weight. Outside the walls, another authority was consolidating. The Ottoman state was not new, but it was becoming something different. Its rulers did not merely seek land. They sought coherence, a center that could unify law, belief, military force, and prestige under a single frame. Constantinople offered that frame. This is often described as inevitability, as if geography alone decided the outcome. But inevitability is a word we apply after decisions have already been made. The city endured siege after siege because power still hesitated around it, not out of weakness, but out of calculation. To take Constantinople was not only to defeat an enemy, it was to claim a legacy that could not be easily undone. On the final night, when the defenses failed, the collapse was sudden. But the transformation was not. When Mehmed II entered the city, he did not erase it. He did not reduce it to rubble or abandon its meaning. He absorbed it. This is where the pattern sharpens. Victors often destroy symbols to announce rupture. But power does not always benefit from rupture. Sometimes it requires continuity. The Ottomans did not reject the city's past authority. They reinterpreted it. They preserved structures, institutions, and titles, not as relics, but as instruments. Constantinople did not stop being a capital. It changed who could speak through it. Power, in this moment, behaved less like conquest and more like inheritance. The city became a mechanism for legitimacy. The Hagia Sophia stands at the center of this transformation. Not as a building, but as a signal. It was not destroyed, it was converted. This act was not primarily religious spectacle, it was architectural authority. The structure remained, its function shifted, and with that shift, power announced itself as both new and continuous. To rule from Constantinople was to rule from history itself. The Ottomans did not place themselves outside the old order, they placed themselves inside it, at the point where it had broken. This is one of power's quieter strategies. When rupture threatens instability, power often chooses adaptation instead. The city's administrative systems were preserved where useful. Its population was reorganized, not eliminated. Its role as a center of trade and law was sustained. What changed was the choreography of authority. Who commanded? Who interpreted law? Who defined legitimacy? The fall of Constantinople is often framed as the end of the Middle Ages. But endings are convenient labels, not lived experiences. For those inside the city, power did not vanish overnight. It changed tone, it changed language, it changed who could issue commands and whose commands mattered. Power rarely announces itself with clarity. It settles in through repetition. In the years that followed, the Ottomans did not treat the city as a conquered periphery. They treated it as a center that needed to be stabilized. This is a critical distinction. Empires that fail to consolidate authority at their core tend to fracture. Mehmed II understood this. His decisions after the conquest mattered as much as the conquest itself. He rebuilt walls, markets, institutions. He invited populations back into the city. He asserted order not through constant force, but through structure. Power, here, was not loud. It was deliberate. Constantinople became Istanbul, not because its past was erased, but because its meaning was redirected. The city's fall also sent shockwaves outward. Across Europe, it was interpreted as loss, threat, and warning. But more subtly, it disrupted assumptions about permanence. If Constantinople could fall, then no center was untouchable. No claim of divine or historical legitimacy was immune. Power relies on belief as much as enforcement. When belief fractures, authority must adapt or harden. Some states responded by centralizing further, others by reinforcing religious or dynastic claims. The fall became a mirror in which other rulers saw their own vulnerability. But the Ottomans experienced something different. They inherited a city that demanded coherence. Holding Constantinople required restraint as much as force. Its diversity, its history, its symbolic weight made reckless dominance risky. Power here learned to govern complexity. This is where the inward turn begins. As the Ottoman Empire expanded outward, its center pulled inward. Constantinople demanded attention, resources, legitimacy. The empire's identity began to orbit the city. Authority was no longer dispersed across frontier conquest alone. It was anchored. Anchored power behaves differently. It prioritizes stability over speed, administration over improvisation, symbol over spectacle. The fall of Constantinople did not simply open the gates to expansion. It reshaped how expansion was justified and managed. The city became a reference point, a buffer against fragmentation. But anchors also create tension. To govern from a center so dense with meaning required constant calibration. Any fracture there would echo outward. This is the consequence power accepts when it chooses continuity over destruction. The city could legitimize authority, but it could also expose it. The Ottomans ruled from Constantinople for centuries. Yet the city always carried layers of past authority beneath the present one. Power did not erase those layers. It governed on top of them. This created strength, and it created brittleness. When power rests inside inherited structures, it benefits from prestige it did not create. But it also becomes responsible for maintaining coherence it did not design. The world shifted on the night Constantinople fell, not because one empire ended and another began. It shifted because power revealed one of its deepest patterns. That authority is rarely born from nothing. It is assembled from fragments, adapted from what came before, and stabilized through repetition. The city did not die. It was recontextualized. The fall was not an erasure. It was a transfer. This transfer altered how power understood itself, not only in the Ottoman world, but everywhere that watched. Empires began to recognize that legitimacy could be claimed through continuity as much as conquest. That control could be strengthened by preservation rather than destruction. The night Constantinople fell reminds us that power does not always announce change with fire. Sometimes it does so with careful restraint. And this raises an uncomfortable question. When power inherits a world already shaped by others, is it transforming history or quietly submitting to it? The city still stands. Its walls repaired, its skyline altered, its name changed. Yet beneath every transformation, the same tension remains. Power moves forward by looking inward, and what it finds there is never entirely its own. The world shifted that night, not because a city fell, but because power chose how to stand inside the ruins that remained. Join us on Timeless Questions, where ancient stories, enduring ideas, and human nature meet in quiet reflection.